Morning, everyone. I want to start this sermon early in the year, just talking in general terms about what our special character means here at Rathkeil. What does it mean that we are an Anglican school? Well, first of all, I'd like to think that it means that we are broadly Christian. And what I mean by broadly Christian is that there are very many different kinds of Christianity. There are some very black and white types of Christianity, what people would call legalistic. Some which would say you shouldn't have any alcohol, you should never do any work on the Sabbath, be that a Saturday for some, or others would regard that as a Sunday. And then there are other types of Christianity which are very perhaps militant in the way that they share their faith. You can think of Destiny Church, and the way that they are very outspoken and very public in the way that they demonstrate their beliefs, and in particular the way they'll often march against issues that they are opposed to. There are other types of Christian again who are what you might call more interested in social justice, who their focus is really on serving the poor and on equality for people. The great thing about the Anglican Church is that it includes all of these people. It is a broad church. It's a church where you'll find these very, sometimes quite black and white Christians sitting alongside some with a much more liberal or social focus. And they all consider themselves Anglican. So today I want to talk about perhaps just those few things that perhaps all Anglicans would have in common, and probably I would have to say all Christians would have in common. The most obvious of those is, of course, the belief in God. Now, to be honest, I don't like using the word God very much. Not because I don't believe in God, I certainly do, but it's because of the word, the connotations that word has, and what I think that word creates in other people's minds. When I say God, I think people think I believe in some old man who is somewhere up far away in the sky or in the heavens somewhere, who's a bit like a bit of a rule keeper who's watching to see if anyone's misbehaving, and he's keeping a note of who's bad, and at some point when we die, we're going to go up and be stood in front of him and be told off for all the naughty things we've done, or maybe let through into heaven. That is not what I believe in as God, and I don't think many people believe in that idea of what God is. And some religions, in fact, say that we should never even speak the name of God, that we should never refer to God specifically, and in fact there's a Christian tradition that says we should never try to create a picture or an image of God, because it'll always be too small. It will never capture the mystery of what God is. And so God is something that must always remain larger than us. So the only thing I think that we can say about God is that God is something that is larger than us, that is the source of all. It's the source of ourselves, the source of all existence, of all things that exist. God is not one thing, not even the greatest thing amongst many, but the source of all of these things, and is therefore hard even to really think about clearly. But what it means, though, that there is this source, this intelligence that created and is the source of all things, what that means is that therefore life has a meaning. If there is a creator, then life has a meaning and a purpose. And what that meaning is love, according to the Bible and to actually all religions. This higher power is described as being love, which means that the purpose of our lives is to love and to be loved. Now, love isn't just a wishy-washy thing about cuddly toys and good feelings and just being nice and smiley and happy. Love is very practical, and love is about the inclusion and the connection of all people and actually of all things. Love is about all things being one, not in a way that in any way destroys or obliterates their differences, but being one in a way where we maintain our individuality and our uniqueness and our specialness, and yet also live in such harmony that we actually enrich each other through our differences rather than threaten. That's what love is. Love is the harmony of oneness of very diverse and unique beings. So we have a purpose and our lives matter. What we do in this life matters, and we all have a role, and we all have something to contribute to this diverse existence. And who we are and our differences and the way we are made need to be offered to this oneness, to build it up, to create this harmony. So we have a purpose. That purpose is love. And finally, I think the other significant thing is that to live in harmony with this oneness that God is, with this love that is in all things, there is required a surrender of our focus on ourselves, our self-centeredness, what some would call our ego. The example Jesus gave us, both in his teachings and in his life, and actually most significantly in his death, is that through surrender, through giving ourselves up as an act of love, we live in harmony with the oneness, with God, who is the source of all things. That's really the message of Jesus' life and the message of the cross. And it's the message most clearly expressed at Easter time. And we know that Easter is coming up. I haven't really seen too many Easter eggs in the shop yet, but once they start appearing in the supermarket, you can guarantee that Easter's not too far away. But one thing that is happening right now is that we are preparing for Easter through what's called Lent. Now, Lent typically begins with a day called Shrove Tuesday, which is today. And traditionally on Shrove Tuesday, people would cook pancakes. There's a long explanation as to why that would happen. It's to do with getting rid of the yeast in the house. But yesterday, the Year 9s had pancake races. Mrs. Green got them all out there racing pancakes. And that's a tradition that's gone on for many years, that the church celebrates the beginning of Lent by making pancakes. Tomorrow will be what's called Ash Wednesday, which is the first day of Lent. Lent is a time when people often will fast. They'll often limit their food intake, or they'll give up something that's very special to them. They might give up alcohol or chocolate and sweet things. Some people might choose to give up some form of technology. But people make a sacrifice during Lent. And they do it both to remember the 40 days that Jesus wandered in the desert before he began his ministry. Jesus' 40 days also symbolized the 40 years that Israel, the nation of Israel, spent wandering lost in the desert before they came to the promised land. But these 40 years or 40 days are all about preparation. They were all about preparing for something good, for something better that was about to happen. So as we enter into Lent, let's think about what it is that we could give up that would make our lives better. What is it that we could take out of our lives to make room for something better? Perhaps you have a habit which you enjoy, but if you reflect on it, maybe it's actually taking away from your life. And maybe if that was not in your life anymore, there'd be room for something better. For me, I know if I gave up endlessly scrolling through social media, there'd be more room in my life for family time, or even reading, or even just doing something else I like maybe surfing. So to summarize, we're a special character school. We are a school that was founded on being an Anglican school. What that broadly means is that we believe that life has meaning and it has purpose. both for all of us as a whole and for us individually. And that meaning and that purpose is love. We believe that Jesus demonstrated the shape of that love. That love is about surrendering our self-importance, surrendering our selfish desires in order to contribute to the greater whole and the greater good. And in order to prepare ourselves to think about that, and to think about Easter, which is the celebration of Jesus' death and his resurrection, we're entering now into a time of preparation, a time which we call Lent, where we think about what it is we could empty ourselves of, what we could stop doing in order to make room for the better in our lives. So I hope that you will consider doing this, boys. I know that I'm considering what it is I'm going to give up for Lent. Chocolate's not really an option for me. I know I'll fail on that one, but I'm seriously considering not using social media over this time. So maybe that's something you'll want to have a chat with to friends right now. What is it you could give up that by taking it out of your life would make room in your life for something better? So have a good Lent, boys, and let's all prepare ourselves to really think about the message of Easter in 40 days' time.